Ladies, gentlemen, and those beyond the binary, I'm Arm Chess, and this is the Road to 1000 Elo series. If you haven't caught the series before, that's on you. I'm joking. I train for a full week, whether that be openings, middle games, end games, and then play 5 games at the end of it, analysing the best one with you guys at home. Now, I know I said I trained for the full week, but it's not really been a week, 3 months. And that's entirely on me. I thought that mock exams were going to end and I wouldn't have any more exams. I couldn't have been more wrong. So that's on me. I do deeply apologise, but we're getting back to more regular upload schedule now, and without further ado, let's start that here. Let's get into the first game. Hello. So at this point, this was game 4. I won the first 2, and I lost the third. So the vibes were pretty decent, but we had come off a pretty embarrassing loss. So I wasn't feeling bad, but I wasn't feeling great. So we needed a win here. I think if we wanted a positive week, a positive comeback, we needed a win. So, game starts off. I'm playing white, so of course I've been learning the Vienna. So I start with e4, and luckily for me, I get e5. Nice. Knight c3 is the follow-up to this. We're now playing the Vienna, and he plays this, which allows me to play the Vienna Gambit. And at this point, by game 4, game 3 lasted very long. And so did game 1. So I was kind of sitting here like, I wouldn't mind just a nice gambit. Do you know what I mean? Oh, he took the gambit. Beautiful. Pawn forward. This is the whole of the Vienna Gambit. Now, the usual line that happens is knight goes back. But as you can see, we didn't get that in the game. Instead, knight to the edge of the board, which you can see wonderfully the eval bar goes up. And I'm thinking this is going to be a nice, easy game. Takes. Lovely. That's exactly. This is a beautiful position. The eval bar thinks so. I think so. It's looking like a good day. Queen comes out, trying to take my pawn, pinning it to the king. I move back, defending it. Nice move. Knight jumps forward, adding another attacker. I had another defender, as well as also what I thought was nice. With this move, and maybe knight moving here would have been a decent move first. What I wanted to do was get the queen back and then bring the knight. Otherwise, the knight would have blocked the queen's position way back. But what's nice about this move is it means that the pawn also can't move forward. The pawn could have maybe disrupted a couple things. So kind of just forcing this backwards and then developing and potentially taking it later. Yeah, it's a nice idea. Pawn there. I'll be honest. Let's recap. Let's recap. Because I didn't understand this. I'll be honest, lads. I really didn't understand this. You just played queen attacks pawn. I defend. Bishop attacks. I defend. Pawn to h6. I mean, you do you, pal. You do you. I'm not going to question anything like that. I move my pawn forward again, just trying to do this idea of defending as well as maybe taking, adding another defender to this. So that pawn's looking secure. I'm looking like a really strong center, which I was happy with. Pawn here. This was I guess now the idea of why you played h6, and I was quite stumped by this. It kind of caught me off guard a little bit, because it really immobilizes some of the squares that the knight could infiltrate in, as well as this pawn infiltrating it for me. In fact, actually, the only move I can really do is kind of head back or rotate down to the queenside. So it was a bit of an odd one for me seeing that move, and it's kind of hard to get rid of. At least what I thought. It also blocks off my bishop as well from this diagonal, which kind of sucks. So it was a bit of a tricky move, and it can't move here. The only move is here, and that's blocked by the knight currently. I mean, the knight isn't really doing too much, but it was definitely a frustrating move for me. I play pawn here. I think I was just like, if we just break this pawn chain, we can figure this out. But it was kind of a one move idea looking back at it now, because he plays this, and again, it puts me in serious trouble, and I think I played a pretty bad move here. I played this, which the eval bar doesn't like, and honestly, I really don't blame it. Looking back now, there was so... I mean, I could have just played... I just could have played for this. I could just, play for this? I mean, the eval bar doesn't go crazy for it, but it's better than the other one. I'm going to assume maybe this. Oh, wow. Wait, what was the best move? Okay, I don't know what the best move was, but that's definitely surprised me. So, again, not my best move, but again, I mean, we're still winning. I'm not going to sit here and complain. Yeah, knight takes was a really nice move. In fact, because, of course, this knight was defending that pawn. It was the only defender on it. So by kind of deflecting my knight to the edge of the board takes, it's honestly it's a nice move from black, I won't lie. And he's starting to come back into the game after falling for the gambit, so I need to be careful. I'm moving my queen to the center of the board, which eval bar doesn't mind too much. And pawn takes. Knight takes. I predicted this move. I literally, in my head, I was like, he's going to fall for it. He's not going to see the queen backwards move. Simply because on here, it's so evident that it's defending it. But especially at the lower level, you'll hear like Gotham chess. So sometimes people don't see backwards moves. Like low elo, people don't see that kind of move. And as I was playing the game, I literally said out loud, he's going to completely take that pawn and think he's fought my rook and my king. I said it in my head. And lucky for me, I was right. So he was getting himself back into the game. Now he's not. So again, we've got a lovely position now. Surely we shouldn't fumble this again. Queen goes for the center of the board. Taking my pawn? Yeah, taking my pawn, which is frustrating. Again, he's deflected everything I had, so tough. What did I play then? I don't know what I played. I played queen here. Now you're probably wondering, why did I play queen here? Because I'm still afraid of women. Queen takes queen. And we are technically in the endgame. Doesn't look like it. There's still a lot on the board, but we are in the endgame now. Pawn moves up, defending this, which was previously undefended, and I just decided to take the free pawn. Also because, yeah, it was going to be like, I mean, these pawns would have been doubled, but yeah, that was looking like 4-on-2 on that side, so that was looking a little bit scary. So getting rid of that pawn wasn't the worst. He decides to pin my knight, but considering how I'm up material and considering that I've already got a pawn defending it, I was kind of in the mood to just I took his free pawn because I was like, if you're gonna take this, I'm kind of fine with that because I'm up material. So him trading down and just trading down material, I don't mind that. I'm all for that, you know. I'm absolutely all for that. So he does decide to takes back, moves his pawn forward. Not really sure why. Probably just to start developing his bishop. Has that defended, which was kind of starting to come under attack here. Of course, I'm not really going to take it with either of these pieces for a pawn. It's never going to be worth it. But I could definitely see the idea looking back. I play here. It develops a rook. Gets the king into a slightly more safe position. It's safer in the corner than it is in the middle, so it's not the worst move. Bishop to here, which I thought was an odd move. I mean, you know, it felt a little blocked in, but if you want to defend the pawns, that's completely fine. And of course, it does defend this one. I mean, it didn't need defending. Your king's already defending it, but I digress. I just decide, screw it, why not? Attack the pawn. And he goes, I'm going to attack your bishop, which at first seems horrifying, but for two reasons it isn't great. First of all, I'm going to take anyway, because then I'm defending it. But the second reason why this is bad, and it's arguable whether you consider this good or bad, but let's say perchance he does take or something like that. But there's multiple things I can do. Of course, I can take it, but as well as that, which is maybe the worst idea, considering, I don't think worse is a word, the less intelligent move would maybe be to play this, check because it forces the king up and then you can take the rook that's in the corner. I guess it also attacks this, so maybe it isn't actually that stupid. But I don't know, it loses you a pawn, so and get rid of this one, and it's a pass pawn, so it's maybe not the best move. But yeah, I take pawn. He moves his pawn forward, just trying to defend it. Completely missing that my bishop was just sitting there ready. He attacks, and I just decide, you know what, let's trade off material. And I think I came up with what I liked as the move. Just rook check, because, I mean, you can either move, and I'm gonna take, and then, I mean, you can take back, but it also puts your rook in the corner as well. And considering I've got pawns that are going to fly up the board this end, that the rook's maybe not where you want it. But in the game, yeah, just takes, and I've traded down again. So I'm definitely winning at this point. I've got what? This versus his only 2. So it's 4v2 in terms of major pieces. And I was really happy with this game. Up until this point. So he moves up, he moves his king up, which isn't a bad idea. You want your king forward in the endgame. And I played this because at the time I thought, yo, this is a pretty like solid level move, you know. I'm pinning the bishop, which means that potentially I can pick up these pawns. But what I miss is that I just lose the bishop. I moved it last go. How did I forget about the bishop? It's not my finest work. It's not my finest work. But if we take a minute, the other 2 games I played are, if you can see underneath, I got 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. And in these other games, it was kind of, there was moments even in the winning games where I had winning positions in all of them, and I just made 1 move, 2 move miscalculations, and just completely just brained off in a winning position, and suddenly I'm back to equal. Suddenly I'm losing, and it's so frustrating because I get myself into these nice positions because I know the openings. So that as I lost that, I was quite like kicking myself. I knew I was still winning, but it was like a definite like kick yourself kind of moment. I take my knight back because I can't move it anywhere here, so I need to kind of reroute it somewhere to start getting it into the game, maybe coming to this side and defending these pawns. Rook moves there, which is honestly not the worst move. I move here because my idea is if you take my pawn, I'm going to take yours, which I believe is what happens, yeah. Because it looks like bishop takes, but that was the whole idea I had earlier. So maybe losing the bishop was worth it. It wasn't. I'm trying to cope here. But I didn't mind it as a move. I didn't mind it. Rook slides to c2 to try and attack this pawn, which, again, not the worst move. Bit of a meh kind of move, because I'm going to take, and although he's going to take again, I've still got that pin. Takes. I take his second pawn. He moves out of the way, and I take his third. And if you look now, I'm coming down that board. So, and that's kind of what happens. He moves his pawn forward, defending it from my bishop. I move my knight forward, defended by the rook. No, I did not just blunder it in 1 move. Not again. King moves to c5. I move my pawn up. Just willing to get a 1-for-1 trade, so that I just have either of these pass pawns going down the board. Rook back. I take the trade, and he moves his king to the back rank, which in a normal endgame wouldn't be the worst idea, but considering how much I'm up, it's completely fine. I probably could have checkmated with this. I probably could have, but what I thought with just going down the board was just get this rook out of my life, you know? I don't need you. I don't need you. I don't need this. Just get up the board. We can do a little ladder checkmate, and we can call it a day. which is pretty much what I get in the game, actually. I move my knight forward just to defend once it gets to this square. This one's defending this, you know. It attacks my knight, and I just go, okay, I'll defend. It attacks the pawn, I move it up, defended by the bishop. It slides to attack my bishop, and I'm kind of like, okay, fight me then. So I attack the rook. It takes, which I'm kind of like, I'm fine with. Queen promotes, which, you know, I can do this now. My 700 elo brain can do a ladder checkmate. We've gone to this point. He decides to check me, which I thought was hilarious that he didn't decide to take my knight. Because I think at this point, he was just... I mean, even if he does take my knight, obviously... I mean, let's move back. If he does take my knight, obviously, he's going to lose the material anyway. But I don't know if he did this, either thinking that my king was going to have to move and he gets this. I didn't know if that was his first idea. Or if he, which I did in the game, take his rook and then potentially pray for a stalemate, which people can stalemate. Kasparov is stalemated. I'm not going to judge anyone who stalemates. King slides back. I slide my rook here, completely cutting it off from this rank. And yeah, this is a tutorial on how to ladder checkmate. The exquisite things a 700 can teach you. King goes down. At this point, I was a little worried he's just going to get to my rook, so slide it back up. Checkmate. I was happy with this game. I wasn't crazy happy with this game. I wasn't crazy happy about any of my games. In every single one of my games, I had a moment where I just completely messed up. Not to a point, either to a point where I was losing, or I was still winning, but it was like I'd lost a major piece, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is the third, fourth, fifth time of it happening. And this is the third, fourth week of it happening, of, yeah, getting into good positions and losing them. I mean, in my game that I drew, I was like +7 up, and I ended up drawing it. Which, by the way, first draw of the RM Chess series. We're 6 weeks in. We're 30 games in the first draw. I feel like that's something crazy, but maybe you just draw when like you're higher elo. I don't know if that's a thing, but you probably get more checkmates in the lower elo category, because they say chess played perfectly as a draw, and it's not played perfectly in the 800s. But yeah, not a bad week, I believe, and I will leave it down there in the statistics thing I've decided to start doing. I believe we got to 804 on the elo, which I was happy with. We've smashed past the 800s. This wasn't supposed to be this quick, but we've got to the 800 mark. I think I lost like 1 elo in the game I drew, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, this was a good week. In terms of the games I played, for 6 months out, I was quite happy with it. And if we can continue this progress, this series is going to be done before the end of the year. And I took 3 months out, so that's not too bad. I'm happy with that. Hello. So, post-game, one thing that I'm going to try to introduce is that if you're a beginner in chess and you're just coming to the chess world, I'm not saying there isn't any channels. There totally is. But there's not an abundance that bring you closer to the main chess world. And so that's what I kind of want to do. I want to share my opinion and keep you up to date with the chess news of the week. And so this is what this is all about. And the big chess news this week was freestyle chess. Now, freestyle chess has been something that's very much popularized in probably the last year or two, to be honest. It's also known as the Bobby Fischer Random. That's hard to say. Or yeah, chess 960, 360, who knows. And the idea of it is that all your pieces are either on the first rank or the 8th rank, depending if you're black or white. So your queens, your kings, your knights, your rooks, your bishops, or vicars, as sometimes people call them, or elephants as well. We've had that. They are all twisted around, and you just play out from there. You're given a random twist of them. It's, I think, the same on both sides, that kind of randomness, and you play out from there. And it's been popularized because people like Magnus Carlsen, he was the main one who popularized it in the last 2 years. he's considered the GOAT of chess, and he kind of said he was a bit bored. He wanted to switch it up a little bit. He didn't want it to rely so much on opening theory. Like I say, I'm going to play the Vienna Gambit. You know, that's something that's been studied over and over and over again. He wanted to reinvent the wheel, as I say. And it was received generally pretty well. There's been a bit of drama around Magnus overall, but it was received pretty well. So, in present time, what happened was, recently, was Chess Freestyle Las Vegas. Which was a kind of, what they've done is that they've done multiple throughout in this kind of like circuit throughout the year, and then the people who've played the best get put into some world championship. I think that's what it's supposed to be. And there were 4 kind of protagonists of this story: Levon Aronian, Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and Hans Niemann. Hans Niemann is kind of considered the bad boy of chess. He was caught for cheating when he was like 14, 15, I think, when he was younger in online tournaments. And then there was the whole butt stuff incident. Now, if you want to go into that, absolutely. I'll get demonetized if I do, so I can't. But if you want to do a little research around that, you can. And if you want me to talk more about Hans Niemann and what's happened there and my opinion on that, tell me in the comment section. I will. And I'll do that next week. But for now, we'll just say that there's a lot of controversy around Hans. Now, Hans didn't qualify in the normal way. Most people were just invited to it, and then 2 spots were taken for those who could qualify to it. And Hans Niemann qualified to it, I think, pretty comfortably. I think he beat Dingley running it to qualify. And so, yeah, he was now invited to the tournament, and he's not invited to many. Because of what happened with cheating, he's not invited to many. So he's very vocal about that. He very much wants to prove himself. As he says, his big quote is, "The chess will speak for itself." So, and he doesn't like Magnus because of the whole butt stuff incident. He doesn't really like Hikaru because he thinks he's some part of the chess mafia-verse, he likes to call it, where Chess.com, Hikaru, Magnus, they're all ganging up to try and get him down. Is his kind of thing. They're kind of controlling the chess world, and they need to be stopped. And so that's his big stick. Magnus Carlsen is kind of considered the GOAT of chess. Hikaru's always been considered the number 2 in the sense that, you know, there's always been this idea of Magnus versus Hikaru. It's kind of, people have named it the Chess Classico, play on the El Clasico, which, because the El Clasico's a bit closer. Barcelona, Real Madrid's a bit closer. Magnus and Hikaru, sadly, there is a difference I have to call out. Magnus has, on very much more occasions, beaten Hikaru than Hikaru has beaten Magnus. It's just kind of known, sadly. And Aronian is an American grandmaster, same as Hikaru, who's kind of always been considered quite tricky. A lot of people have said that Aronian is quite a hard player to figure out, that he likes to come up with quite unique ideas. So actually, when I heard of Chess Freestyle, I was quite excited to see what Aronian would do. Because as an American grandmaster, he's not as good, I mean, maybe in his prime, but he's lower ranked than Hikaru. So in terms of like maybe the American leagues, maybe he's just kind of always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. So going into this, I was quite excited actually to see what Aronian would do, but if he wasn't supposed to be a protagonist of this. And that was proven in the group stage. There were 16 players who were invited, and you were split into the black group and the white group. I'm not racist. And in the black group, I believe Hikaru topped it, and he topped it by quite a margin. I believe Hans was in there as well, and he came second with 4.5 out of 7. So all the players played each other in a game. You win, you get 1 point. You draw, you get 0.5. You lose, you get 0. And I think second was Hans Niemann with 4.5, which again showed that he had form actually going into this. Niemann, he was up for this. He is a good player, Niemann. Cheating or not, he is a very, very strong player, I think, and someone to watch for the future. But yeah, he got 4.5 out of 7, which got him joint second in the group. while Hikaru took first, and he took it by the biggest margin of the day. Even in the other group, I think 4.5 was the top for Praggnanandhaa, I believe, who's having a good season, I think. He's a young Indian grandmaster. India is massive in chess. They're like, grandmasters are coming out of them like babies. They are going to be the next level of chess, I say, come 20, 30 years. So he topped the group with 6.5 Hikaru, 6.5 out of 7, which was a big performance for him. But then he moved to the white group where there was a lot of drama. The drama is that Magnus came joint 4th. And he came joint 4th with Aronian. And this is where things started to get entertaining, because they played a playoffs to determine who gets top 4, because top 4 would qualify you to higher bracket and bottom 4 would require you to go to lower bracket. And that's where things got very entertaining, because of course Magnus was the favourite going into it and he lost. And if I believe this is correct, he lost 3-0 to Aronian. Levon Aronian put up the games of the century, both defensively and attackingly, and he won 3 games in 0. And that put Magnus to lower bracket, which is where you don't see Magnus in lower bracket all that often. You don't see it. So Hans was overjoyed. I believe Hans did an interview afterwards saying, this day isn't about me qualifying. This day is about the downfall of Magnus, which I thought was quite funny. I think he said something about tears. He was like, "Oh, this is about Magnus's tears," and I was like, oh, "Good for him, let him celebrate." So Magnus goes into lower bracket, and this isn't kind of like a tournament where if you get through all of lower bracket, you get to the grand finals. No, this is, if you're in lower bracket, you're fighting for 3rd, 4th. 1st and 2nd is top bracket. You've lost group stage, you're done. So this was quite something. So then we go to higher bracket, where lower bracket will leave until the end. Nothing really all that crazy happened there. So we'll go to top bracket, because top bracket was where the drama was at. I believe if you were like the top 4, so if Hikaru came first, so I believe Hikaru got first pickings on who he wanted his opponent to be, unless it was random. That's how they've done it in the last couple of chess freestyle tournaments, where if you're the highest seed, you get to pick who your quarterfinal or your round of 16 is going to be. So Hikaru picked Levon, which I thought was quite risky, because you've got a guy on form. The guy's just beat Magnus 3-0. That's quite the achievement, Hikaru doesn't get that on Magnus often, so I was like, good for Hikaru, but it's a bit of a risky choice, even if his group stage wasn't that great, Levon. While I believe Hans Niemann played Prague, I think. And Hans Niemann got through his game, I believe, pretty comfortably. But Hikaru Aronian, where Hikaru again was the favourite. As I've said, Hikaru is the US Grandmaster, has pretty much always been higher than Aronian. He lost. Aronian won again. Aronian's on a roll here. Aronian is on quite the roll. And yeah, he's beat the number 1 and the number 2 in back-to-back games. This was like, hold up. Aronian, I wasn't familiar with your game. This was quite something. So, Aronian's just gone back-to-back wins. And people are starting to think, hold up, is Aronian going to win something? Is this going to be Aronian's time? Because he hasn't won, I think, a major kind of tournament in a while, Aronian. So this would have been quite big for him. And so we go to the semi-finals. And in the semi-finals, Aronian's playing Arjun Erigaisi, who I think's had a bit of a 50-50 season. I don't think it's been his best compared to last year. Last year he got to 2,800, which I think only 14 Grandmasters have done in the past. So this, like, he was going, but I think start of the season, he went to the Tata Steel event, which is another majors tournament, and he had a very poor tournament. And I don't think he's been all that the same, since then. I don't think he's been bad in any sense. Like, I don't think he's put up bad performances, but I don't think he's put up the greatest performances. So, going into this tournament, I wasn't expecting Arjun to get to semis. I was quite happy to see him there, but I wasn't expecting it. And again, that was Aronian's match. And I think Arjun sits in top 7 in the world. I'd be risky to say top 5, but it's definitely top 7. And so again, a really tough game for Aronian, and he wins it again. Now I'm thinking, flipping out. Now I watched this game. I live in the UK, so I went to bed midnight watching this game. I watched it with my dad, which was quite funny. I was teaching him all about chess, but I sat there and I was like, surely not. The other game, which was Fabiano Caruana versus Hans Niemann, was going to tiebreaks. I believe that Hans Niemann had missed a win, so he wasn't too happy about that, Hans. But he went storming off, actually, after the game. They decided to draw the game. I don't think he wanted cameras to see him. I think he was pretty frustrated. But what happened is that after I'd gone to bed, Hans Niemann ended up winning tiebreaks. So the bad boy of chess, for chess was going to speak for itself. And that's where we got to it. Hans Niemann versus Levon Aronian. Not the final anyone expected. Now, going into lower bracket quickly, the final of that ended up being Hikaru versus Magnus, which was entertaining in its own sense in how similar these two games were in the higher bracket finals and the lower bracket finals. Because in game 1, I believe that both games took a draw, but it was the way that they drew which was quite interesting. Hans had a really nice winning position against Levon, and he completely threw it away. Now, I'm not going to say Levon played badly that game. You know, he still had to define the defensive tactic once Hans Niemann had blundered his win. But Levon was on ropes. Levon, you know, he needed the plot armor at this point. It wasn't looking too good at one point. And the same thing happened with Hikaru Magnus. Hikaru, shockingly, was the one in a really nice position, and he threw it away. He suffered again to what people call the Magnus effect. And yeah, it was a tough loss for him. I think it would have been nice to see Hikaru win that, but yeah, tough. And I think it's a tough tournament for Hikaru potentially. Because getting 6.5 out of 7, like I said, he was a league above the others, 2 points ahead to be specific. And yeah, I think going down to lower bracket instantly to lose against Levon, and then to end up, and I'll spoil for you now, losing lower bracket, that's quite tough. He came 4th in the tournament, which I think was still like 50 grand, so I don't think he's going to complain too much. But yeah, no, losing again to Magnus is a tough one, as I believe the second game ended in a draw, so Magnus won 1.5 to 0.5. And in the other game, Levon won. Levon won the second game to make it 1.5 to 0.5, taking the championship. And I think Hans suffered a lot. Throughout the game, Hans looked very uncomfortable in the second one. And so I think losing that first game, from the way he was looking proper like this throughout the game, like he wasn't looking like a man who wanted to be there, especially when he noticed how losing he was. But I think it's a tough loss on Hans, because I think he had a really good tournament. I think he stayed really consistent throughout the tournament. Maybe one or two of his not best plays, but I think for a guy who's not getting invited to many tournaments, I think it's a tough loss for him. But you know what? Fair play to Aronian. He showed up, and to just win all of those games back to back, games that he really shouldn't have won. He had a really good tournament. There's not much else to say, and that is the big news. I think he takes away 200 grand. So fair play to Aronian. Fair play. And yeah, that is the news. So if you got to the end of this rant, thank you very much. It's been fun, and I hope to see you next week. As I said, go into the comments, tell me what you want to learn about the chess world. If you want to keep this towards this week, if you want to learn about the history of chess, tell me, and I'll do a little bit at the end like this. I mean, it's not been little, flipping out. What did I say? 13 minutes. Wow. That's probably longer than the actual video. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I've been Orange Chess. Have a nice day.